As all of you are aware, our today's topic is Tata Stories That Inspire. And we have Harish Bhat on the panel and Venkatadri Ranganathan, who is going to be our moderator for today. I'll introduce Venkatadri and then he will take it forward. Venkatadri Ranganathan is the Chief Operating Officer, Nutrition Science Business at Tata Chemicals. He has 30 years experience in various functions and leadership roles in Hindustan Unilever Limited and Tata Chemicals. Venkatadri holds a mechanical engineering degree from VJTI, Mumbai University, and has done his PGTM from IIM Lucknow. He has qualified as an MCC from ICF and also is an alumnus of Kocharya. He serves on various expert committees in CII, IMC, and BCCI. Welcome, Venkat. I'll also give an introduction to the topic that we'll be discussing that Harish will be taking forward for us today. Harish Bhat, a brand custodian Tata Sons, will share some simple yet inspiring stories from the history of the Tata Group. He will narrate stories of several pioneering initiatives of the group and talk about how the group has persevered through adversities and consistently kept the interest of its consumers, employees, and the community in everything it does. This is a session of compelling storytelling that will inspire and inform you. Welcome, Harish. Over to you, Venkat.
Thanks, Aishwarya. It's actually my great pleasure to introduce Harish. Harish is somebody whom I respect, I worship as a leader, as a marketing wizard, and it's my great pleasure to introduce him today to the Kocharya session. As Aishwarya mentioned, Harish is the brand custodian of Tata Sons. He joined the Tata Group in 1987 in TAS, and currently he is the chairman of Tata Coffee. He's also a director on various Tata companies, including Trent, Infinity Retail, Starbucks, Tata AIA. In his long 32 years in the group, he's held several senior roles. He was earlier the managing director of Tata Global Beverages and CEO of watches and jewelry business in Titan. You're all aware about the great brands of Titan, and Harish has played a key role in creating all of them. Fast Track, Tanishq, Titan brand itself, and he played a key role in the transformation of the jewelry business, which today is actually the mainstay for Titan. He's an alumnus of BITS Pilani and IIM Ahmedabad. In IIM Ahmedabad, he graduated as the topper of the batch and got the gold medal for it. And a decade later, he also got the Chevron Scholarship for Young Managers given by the British government. And in 2017, he also got the Distinguished Alumnus Award from BITS Pilani. Harish is a very strong marketeer, consumer behavior expert, studies business history, and he's been a member of the Consumer Insights Panel of the Economic Development Board, Government of Singapore. And he is very passionate about writing. He's a very prolific writer. He writes in various newspapers and magazines. He's got 3 books to his credit, Tata Log, An Extreme Love for Coffee. And these are very interesting books. I'm sure many of you would have read it. He's a foodie and a fitness enthusiast. He lives in Bombay, and and more important part of it is that he's a great marketeer, and the communication of the messages that he gives is brilliant. I've heard him so many times, and every time I'm amazed the way he puts across his points. It's my pleasure to invite Harish to speak about the various stories on resilience from the Tata Group with the Kocharya community. Thank you, and over to you, Harish.
Thank you, Venkatadri. Thank you both to Aishwarya and to you for the warm words of welcome. It's my pleasure and privilege to speak at this Kocharya session to all of you who are expert coaches. I want to just mention that Venkatadri and I know each other very well. He's a valued colleague within the Tata Group, a valued senior colleague. And I always come away impressed by the enthusiasm and energy that he brings to every single initiative where I have been associated with him. So thank you so much, Venkat, for inviting me, and thank you for the warm words that you spoke. Really appreciate that. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this session. Uh, Along with me from the Tata Group, Venkatadri, of course, is there, but my young colleague, Sri Lakshmi Hariharan, who has put this presentation together, is also here. She's a young officer in the Tata Administrative Service, works with the corporate brand and marketing team in Tata Sons. My session today is going to be about a few stories of Tata. I'm not going to lecture on any brand concepts or brand building concepts. That's not my agenda for today. Uh, what you see here on the screen in front of you is a picture of the founder of the Tata Group, Jamshedji Tata. This is the Jubilee Park at Jamshedpur. And the stories I will talk about today are stories of resilience, stories of nation building, stories of pioneering, stories of giving back to the community, stories of overcoming adversity. But if we can go to the next slide, Shri, I want to start by talking a little bit about the Tata brand today. Many of you would have heard of the Tata brand. I hope you have. Some of you would be using Tata products as well. I just want you to know that Tata is today a very, very strong brand. It is a strong number one brand in India with a brand valuation of more than $20 billion. It is the only Indian brand to feature in the top 100 brands in the world. We are ranked 85th now. And just to give you an idea of scale, every second Indian uses a Tata product. So 1 out of 2 Indians uses some Tata product or the other in his or her life. And what are these Tata products? If you move to the next slide, you will see here a range of Tata products. Just sit back and ask yourself, which of these products are you familiar with? Which of these products do you use? You will see Tata Salt and Chroma and Tanishq and Tata Sampan Dal and Tata Consultancy Services in IT Services, Titan I+, Tata Cars, Tata Trucks, Himalayan Water, Tata Starbucks. Uh, so Tata is actually across a range of sectors. We don't stand for one particular product or service. We are present in consumer products, in financial services, in IT services, in automobiles, in steel. My belief is that one of the reasons why every second Indian buys a Tata product and trusts in Tata is because the quality of our products and services is very good. No consumer will ever buy a product or service if the quality is not good enough. So a fundamental reason is that I think over the period of the last several decades, the Tata Group has focused our best, and I'm not saying we are perfect, no one is perfect, in providing consumers products of exceedingly good quality and value, which is why people buy Tata Salt or Tata Tea or Titan watches with such trust and with such confidence that they will be buying products of good quality. But my view as brand custodian of the Tata brand, ladies and gentlemen, is that the quality of products and services is only one reason why the Tata brand commands so much trust. And truly speaking, you could say that there are many companies in the world and in India which provide products of very good quality and value. I can call out so many other companies which do that. So what is it that distinguishes the Tata brand and makes it so uniquely trusted, particularly by Indian consumers? To tell you this, I will actually have to go to a very different slide from showing you products and show you a photograph of our founder, Jamshedji Tata. Jamshedji Tata was a Parsi merchant in Mumbai, and he founded the Tata Group in the year 1868, which means we are today 152 years of age, and we are still growing and still prospering, and India's most trusted brand today and India's largest conglomerate today. Often I ask people, please name for me a few companies which are more than 150 years of age. I ask this if I were in a classroom with you, I would be requesting you to put your hands up and name a few companies for me. Typically, people can remember 3, 4, 5 companies. You should also, take this opportunity to think to yourself, do you know of any companies which are more than 150 years of age? You'll find very, very few. The average life of a company is 40 years. After 40 years, a company will be very profitable. But if you look at the Fortune 500 list, companies typically don't last more than 40 years. Where are the Kodaks and the Orkuts of this world? They've come and gone. So Jamshedji Tata, on the other hand, when he founded the group, he started with this philosophy that in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder, but it is in fact the very purpose of its existence. What does this mean? This is the days well before conscious capitalism had come to this world. He said, we exist for the sake of the community. That is what he said. We are not a charitable organization. We have very profitable businesses. But the profit that is earned from those businesses goes back to the community. And how did he structure this? How did he and his son structure this? What they did is they took 66% of the share capital or the equity of the parent company Tata Sons, which owns Tata Consultancy Services, Tata Consumer Products, Titan. It is the majority, it is the single largest shareholder in all these companies. He took 66% of that equity and put it into Tata Charitable Trusts. Even today, we are owned 66% by Tata Charitable Trusts, which means 66% of all the dividends go to the Tata Charitable Trusts. And these trusts then use this to set up hospitals, to set up institutions of learning, to provide healthcare, they have a large drinking water mission. At any point, they have 1,300 projects in 180 districts of the country. So in a way, our founder and his sons did what they thought was right. They put the community at the center by creating a structure where 66% of the profits indirectly flow to the Tata Charitable Trust, which are mandated to serve the community. That spirit, that founder's mentality, I would like to believe has stayed with the Tata Group until today and is one of the reasons why we are trusted by Indians or by any community where we are present. But I don't want to explain that through just a quotation or a concept. I want to explain that through a few stories. Because these stories also illustrate that in serving the spirit, the Tata Group had to overcome many challenges and many areas of resistance. So let me start with the first story. And since this is a session of storytelling, please sit back, have a cup of tea or coffee or a glass of water, relax and listen to these stories. I am not asking you to, just listen to them and absorb them, and some stories may leave an impact on you, some may not. So let me start with 1902, the story of Tata Steel. Jamshedji Tata thought that steel is important for India and we should not be importing all our steel. We should have steel which is manufactured in the country. And therefore, he had the dream of putting up India's first integrated steel plant. Remember, this is more than 120 years back. And when Jamshedji Tata said this, the British of that time, the British were of course in power in India, the British government literally scoffed at him. You know, the chief engineer of the British Railways at that time was a gentleman called Sir Frederick Upcott. And he said, do you mean to say that Tatas will make steel? If they make steel, I will eat every pound of it. That was the view that the Britishers had. Jamshedji Tata was a very determined man. The challenge was there was no integrated steel company in India. No one knew how to make steel right from mines until steel in India then. He went all the way from India to the United States, to Pittsburgh, which is the steel city of the US. There, he was pointed towards one of the greatest metallurgists of the world, Charles Page Perrin, who sat in New York. How does he go and invite a metallurgist who is living in the comforts of New York to come to the jungles of Eastern India to set up a steel plant in a small town? Charles Page Perrin still remembers that meeting. He has written about it, saying, "This man in a strange garb came into my room. He spoke to me with fire in his belly about the need to create steel for the Indian nation. And he said he was so inspiring in what he spoke that at the end, when he asked me, Charles Page Perrin, will you leave New York and come with me to India? He said, I said yes. And I followed him to India. He got the best metallurgist in the world to come to India to help him mine iron ore and create steel in a town called Sakchi, which was later renamed Jamshedpur. What you see on the right there is an old archival photograph of Tata Steel in those ancient days. Tata Steel started producing steel in 1913, supplied steel rails to the Allies during World War I, and Dorabji Tata, who was Jamshedji Tata's son, is often, he said, if that British engineer had kept his word of eating every pound of steel that the Tatas made, he might be now suffering a slight indigestion. The point I want to make is there were many, many challenges. India was not known for steel. The British were scoffing at us. We had to get a very reputed metallurgist to come and live in India to help him to set up the steel plant. And yet Jamshedji Tata took up this challenge and made it happen. And today Tata Steel is one of the finest steel companies on the face of our planet. And Jamshedpur, all of you know, the town of Jamshedpur is well known for the civic services that it provides. But let me move to the next story. And the next story is a very different one from Tata Steel. Many of you may recognize this building. This is the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai. Now, how was the Taj Mahal Hotel born? In the 1890s, the city of Mumbai was under attack not by some enemies or enemy countries, but just like we are under attack now, it was under attack by the bubonic plague. The bubonic plague ravaged Mumbai city in those days. Millions of people died and fled Mumbai. The city of Mumbai was on its knees. People stopped visiting Mumbai. Overseas visitors stopped coming to the city, which is the financial capital of India. And Jamshedji Tata said, I need to do something which makes the city recover, which gives it back its grandeur, which brings people back to the city of Mumbai. So he went to the Bombay Port Trust and leased out a 5-acre plot of land. Many members of his family didn't believe it. He said, are you going to now put up a hotel? You're already building a steel plant, and are you going to put up a hotel? Ladies and gentlemen, he put up the Taj Mahal Hotel, getting gilded pillars from Paris. The first building to have electricity in India. Half the town turned out to see the opening of the Taj Mahal Hotel. It's the first building to have not conventional air conditioning. He got an ice factory to make ice, and he blew air over that ice so that rooms could be cooled using the ice factory. He built the finest hotel east of the Suez and got the grandeur of the city back. That is what motivated him to build the Taj Mahal Hotel, the city of Mumbai. This is a hotel which Jamshedji Tata built in 1903, which has withstood 2 world wars. It has served as a hospital during the world wars. It has served to house frontline medical staff during the current pandemic. It is a hotel which has withstood the Spanish flu of the 1918s. It is a hotel which has withstood terrorist attacks, and it's a proud symbol of Mumbai and India today. But the reason it was created was his love for the city of Mumbai. And once again, he overcame several financial and other challenges to be able to put up this hotel and make it work. But let me move to a third story. I've described steel and I've described hotels. These are two different industries. A third story is actually in the city, lies in the many of you who live in the city of Bangalore are likely to have seen this institute. Jamshedji Tata believed that education in science and technology is very important for the country. In 1892, he established the J.N. Tata Scholarship for Overseas Education of Indians, the first such scholarship for overseas education of Indians. Many reputed Indians, including President K.R. Narayanan, have gone overseas to study on this scholarship. At one point, 30% of the ICS in India were made up of Tata scholars. But you can't give scholarships to thousands of people. It's very expensive to go overseas and study. So he said, we need to create a science university in India. India does not have a university of research and higher education in science. He went to Lord Curzon, the British Viceroy of the time, and said, can we create this science university? Would the British government be willing to back it? Lord Curzon was not convinced. He said, will there be demand for a university? Will you get professors to come and teach? Will you have students who want to come and learn? And there were many impediments which were created. Jamshedji Tata was a determined man. He went to Mysore. He met the Diwan of the Maharaja of Mysore, Seshadri Iyer, who was the Diwan of the Maharaja of Mysore, convinced the Maharaja of Mysore to provide land in Bangalore for the creation of a science university. Land alone was not enough. You need funds to run the university. Jamshedji Tata happened to meet Swami Vivekananda on a boat trip to the US. He wrote to Swami Vivekananda asking for Swamiji's help to request people to contribute towards a university. There is famous correspondence sitting in the Tata archives. Swami Vivekananda responded with an appeal in Prabuddha Bharati, his magazine, saying this is one of the finest ventures ever to be born in India. Jamshedji Tata went back to Lord Curzon and said, I have now been able to get the land. I have now been able to get some funding. And he also told Lord Curzon, I am going to leave 1/3 of all my wealth to fund this university. And now please give us permission to start up the Indian Institute of Science as a deemed university. Through such repeated attempts, he was able to get the government to agree. And eventually the government also gave it a little bit of funding. And that was how, ladies and gentlemen, the Indian Institute of Science was born in the year 1913. In any global ranking today of science universities, the Indian Institute of Science is India's top ranked university. And it features amongst the top 100 in the world. But there were a number of challenges he had to overcome before he was able to establish this university way back in 1913. That is the third. So these are three stories from the life of our founder, Tata Steel, the Taj Mahal Hotel, and the Indian Institute of Science. All three involved challenges. But with all three, Jamshedji Tata put his mind to it, was determined to make things happen, and actually made them happen. I'm now moving on to a fourth story, and this is from the time of his son, Dorabji Tata. Jamshedji Tata passed away in 1904. Dorabji Tata, his elder son became the chairman. And in Jamshedji Tata's time itself, he had this dream of clean energy for Mumbai. Mumbai was full of textile mills, which were using coal-fired engines, coal-fired steam engines to power the textile mills. Because they were using coal-fired engines, there was a lot of soot and grime, and the city was very polluted. So Jamshedji Tata said, there is so much water coming down the Western Ghats near Lonavala. Can we not harness this? And can we not bring clean hydroelectric power to the city of Mumbai, which can be used by all these mills? Clean and cheap. His son Dorabji Tata took that idea and turned it into reality. At Walwan, in the Western Ghats, on the way from Mumbai to Pune, he put up India's first major hydroelectric project, which exists even today. You can see the beautiful Walwan lake today, where actually Mahasir fish are also bred. And all the way from that lake, water was brought down the hills, where hydroelectric turbines were used to create electric power, which was fed to the textile mills of Mumbai. Once again, this was not easy. They had to get 3 engineers from outside to create this kind of a dam and a hydroelectric project. They had to get approval from the governments of those days. But notwithstanding all those challenges and adversities, they made this happen. And today, Tata Power, the company Tata Power, is actually the successor company to this hydroelectric company which had been born in those days. And of course, there are many, many other hydroelectric projects which also came up near the hills of Lonavala. I'm moving now to a fifth story because, moving on in time. So I've talked about institutions, and I saw some of you referring to the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Of course, that was also created much later in the 1950s by JRD Tata at that time. I will narrate that story perhaps in our Q&A session. But now this is 1920. So I've come all the way from 1868 to 1920. And the person you see on the left here is Sir Dorab Tata, who was now the chairman of the Tata Group. He is the elder son of Jamshedji Tata, the founder of the Tata Group. Now, Sir Dorab Tata was at a prize giving ceremony at the Deccan Gymkhana in Pune. And he noticed that many peasants, many farmers who were participating in those sports races were running very fast. They were running nearly as fast as the people he had seen in Europe. So he said, if these people are running so fast, then why is our country not represented in the Olympics? The Olympics is the greatest sports congregation anywhere in the world. How come India has never sent a team to the Olympics? And he said, the pride of the nation demands that we should be at the Olympics, and our champions are given an opportunity to participate in the Olympics. He requested the governor of Mumbai to get India affiliated to the International Olympic Association, which is important for our participation. He then said, there was no Indian Olympic Committee at that time. He said, I will fund the team which is going to the 1920 Olympics. In 1920, a team largely funded by Sir Dorab Tata, consisting of 3 runners and 2 wrestlers, and the flag bearer was Purma Banerjee. You can see the team on the right-hand side. You will see, along with their team manager. They went to the Antwerp Olympics and they carried the Indian flag proudly into the Olympics for the very first time. Ever since then, India has participated in every single Summer Olympics until today. This team did not win any medals, but look at what happened. 4 years later in 1924, some states of India also joined Dorabji Tata in sending the second Indian team to the Paris Olympics. By then, this passion had caught on. Dorab Tata requested the physical director of YMCA in Mumbai, Dr. Noren, to visit the length and breadth of the country and evangelize sports and evangelize the Olympic movement. In 1927, Dorab Tata was elected the founder president of the Indian Olympic Association, which was set up by him. He was also elected to the International Olympic Committee. And in 1928, the third Indian team to the Olympics went to the Amsterdam Olympics. This time it included a hockey team nominated by the Indian Hockey Federation. That hockey team went on to beat every single other country which participated. In the finals, they beat Netherlands 3-0, and they claimed the hockey gold for India, India's first ever gold medal in the Olympics. What a proud moment it must have been. That was the team consisting of Dhyan Chand and others, the legendary Dhyan Chand. But this was possible because Dorab Tata championed the cause of India going to the Olympics. Why? Because he felt it was essential for national pride. It's not just the making of steel, not just a science university, but the nation is a holistic creation. And in sending the Indian team to the Olympics, he had to convince the governor of Mumbai. He had to convince the International Olympic Association. Twice the Indian team went and came back without any medals. He had to develop scientific ways of training them within the country. And eventually, they succeeded in the 1928 Olympics. So that is the story, ladies and gentlemen. Very different story from the institutions and companies that I have told you earlier, but still a story of national pride and a story of determination. But let me move on to the next story now. I am now coming to 1930s. This is a voyage over 150 years, the 10 stories I'm narrating. By now, JRD Tata had come of age. And JRD Tata, just like Jamshedji Tata 50 years earlier had said steel is important for the country, JRD Tata's view was that aviation is important for India. Those were the days before the internet. And air mail required aviation. Otherwise, even mail could take months to reach one place to the other. And of course, for passenger mobility, aviation was necessary. And JRD said, if India has to develop, India needs an airline. He went to the government for subsidy. And he requested the Indian government saying, can you give us an initial subsidy to start off the airline? The Indian government of that time refused. It was the British Indian government. He took the risk of investing in the airline on behalf of the Tata Group itself. And he started up in 1932 what was then called the Tata Airlines with just 2 aircraft, 2 de Havilland Kussmaul aircrafts. The first flight took off on the 15th of October 1932 from Karachi to Mumbai via Ahmedabad, carrying air mail. JRD piloted that aircraft himself. It landed in Mumbai at 4 p.m. sharp, and then his co-pilot, Neville Vincent, took that flight from Mumbai to Bellary to Chennai, carrying air mail for the southern part of the country. Tata Airlines, for the next few years, had a 100% punctuality record. In fact, the British government of India said the Imperial Airlines should come and learn from Tata Airlines on how to have a 100% punctuality record. But it was not easy. In between, there was World War II, where all the aircraft had to be given to the government to help with the war effort. In the 1950s, the government decided to nationalize Tata Airlines. It became Air India. JRD Tata stayed on as the chairman of Air India. It became one of the finest airlines in the world. It is said that people in Switzerland and Geneva would keep time on their watch by looking at the Air India flight coming ahead. In the 1950s and 60s, when Singapore wanted to start off its own airline, Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew asked people to study JRD Tata's airline in Air India. That was, ladies and gentlemen, the spirit. There were challenges of funding, there was the challenge of the World War, there were challenges of just pure business excellence, maintaining the airline at very excellent standards. And JRD used to carry with him a small black notebook, noting down everything that was right and wrong with the airline and writing to the general manager anytime he flew by Air India. But towards the end of the story, there's an interesting aspect which I want to leave behind with all of you in your journey as coaches. In 1982, it was the 50th anniversary of this first flight. JRD was already beyond 80 years of age. People told him, listen, you should not fly. You've just had a heart attack, cardiac problem a few years back. JRD said, no, I want to recreate the 50th anniversary of this flight because I think it will inspire young people of my country. His doctors ultimately agreed. They said, if we don't let this man fly, he will become even more stressed. So let's at least let him fly, he will feel fulfilled. He flew the 50th anniversary flight in the year 1982, all the way again from Karachi to Mumbai. I mean, he didn't fly solo from Karachi to Mumbai. There was a co-pilot this time. But from Ahmedabad to Mumbai, he flew solo by himself. As the aircraft neared Mumbai, he was escorted by Air Force planes into the Mumbai airport at Juhu. He circled around for a few minutes because he was a few minutes early, and then promptly at 4 o'clock, he landed at Mumbai airport. People asked him, why did you do this at the age of 80 plus? He said, listen, I want young people in this country to know that if we put our minds to something, there is no challenge that we cannot overcome. Maybe, he had a cardiac problem. He was over 80 years of age, but he chose to do that. And one person who was watching him at that time was a young lady from Haryana, from Karnal. She was inspired by JRD, and she decided to pursue her aeronautical studies. She went to the US, she did her MS in aeronautics, she joined NASA, and eventually she went into space as the very first Indian woman to go into space, who was Kalpana Chawla. Later, unfortunately, as many of you know, Kalpana Chawla passed away, unfortunately, in the Challenger spacecraft in an accident. After she passed away, her family sent to Mr. Ratan Tata a small black and white photograph, exactly the photograph you're seeing on the left side of JRD's first flight. And they told Mr. Ratan Tata, this is the photograph that Kalpana Chawla carried into space with her each time she went into space. Why? Because she was inspired by JRD. And that is what made her an astronaut, gave her the inspiration to become an astronaut. The point is, it's not just about starting an airline for India. It's also about undertaking that flight after 80 years, which inspires millions of youngsters like it inspired Kalpana Chawla. And that is what resilience teaches us to do. That is what JRD wanted young India to feel and experience when he went ahead with the 50th anniversary of his first flight. But it was for the love of the nation that he created the Tata Airlines, notwithstanding lack of funding from the government. He had to convince the board of Tata Sons. He had to withstand world wars. He had to withstand nationalization. And yet he created an airline that India could be proud of. Let me move to my next story now. And we are now moving closer to independence. I could have spoken about the birth of Tata Motors, but let me speak about a very different aspect. Now India was on the verge of independence. The Quit India movement had happened. Everyone knew that after World War II gets over, we are likely to get independence. Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, uh, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, they were all at the fountainhead of this fight from different angles, of course. But one of the things the British had always thought is that they are the expert planners. They are the expert economic planners. So now JRD Tata did something else which he thought was important for the nation. JRD, GD Birla, Lala Shri Ram from Delhi, they got together to create the first ever economic development plan for India. They came together. He got 4-5 industrialists to come together. You'll see the names on the sheet here. Purushottam Das, Thakur Das, JRD Tata, GD Birla, Lala Shri Ram, Kasturbai Lalbai from Ahmedabad. He then got 3 technocrats from the Tata Group. Sir Ardershit Dalal, A.D. Shroff, and John Mathai. John Mathai went on to become a minister in the Jawaharlal Nehru cabinet, as many of you may be aware. He was India's first railway minister and also finance minister for a brief while. So he got these 3 technocrats to write out the plan. It's a very detailed plan. In 1944, they released the very first ever economic plan for India's development, notwithstanding the fact that the British had not supported. In fact, the British got worried when this plan was released, saying this shows that Indians have done something that we have not done ourselves for the future of this country. Many people jokingly called it the Tata Birla plan because JRD Tata and GD Birla were both involved with this plan. It was a very detailed plan, still available in the Tata archives, and it was a precursor to the 5-year plans of India. There is no evidence to show that Nehru or the planners used this, but it was a precursor, and it set the stage for economic planning within the country. Once again, pulling together 5 industrialists who were competitors in the marketplace to sit together in one room and think about economic planning for the country. Imagine the challenges that holds. And these are 5 of the foremost industrialists of the country at that time, competing fiercely in the textile mills or whatever other industries they had. But they came together for the good of the country. And JRD Tata got his Tata technocrats to come and support in the writing of this plan. In fact, President Venkatraman, speaking many, many years later in the 1980s, has called the Bombay Plan one of JRD Tata's foremost contributions to the country. Again, JRD did not have a large planning commission. He did not have a large infrastructure to do this. He had no support from the authorities of the day. He had no support either from the freedom fighters of the day because they were busy with the political fight for freedom. But he still made it happen because he thought it was important for the country. Belief, that is what drove him. And when that belief is there, it makes you overcome any challenges and provides you the wherewithal to keep that enthusiasm and spirit high. Then, of course, if I go to the next slide, 1947, India got its independence. This is JRD Tata's telegram to Jawaharlal Nehru, congratulating him and wishing him well in the heavy task of guiding India to her great destiny. It was sent at 7 p.m. on the 14th of August 1947. That midnight, as of course all of you are aware, that Jawaharlal Nehru addressed Parliament for the first time as the first Prime Minister of Free India, saying, "When the world is sleeping, India awakes." And you will remember that famous speech. But let me move on very quickly from there. I can right into the 1969s. I know that I have a limited amount of time. Otherwise, I would have covered the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Tata Motors, NCPA. All this happened in the 1950s and 60s. But in 1969, JRD Tata, just like he thought aviation was important in the 1930s, he said one thing which is going to be important for this country in the future is computers. And computers, the world is likely to be shaped by computers. And anyway, all of us in the Tata Group also need computers for our companies to function. So thinking ahead of his time, he established a computers division of Tata Sons. And FC Kohli was charged with the job of setting up this division of Tata Sons. And this division, which was set up in 1969, went on to become what we know today as Tata Consultancy Services. Imagine from 1969 to 90, the early years, 10 to 20 years, computers and IT services were still not part of our country's ethos. There were many, many challenges in actually importing even a mainframe to India. I have heard that when the first mainframe came and it was switched on the 11th floor of the Air India building in Mumbai at the TCS office, there was great jubilation. Foreign exchange was tough to come by. In those days, to get a mainframe computer into the country, to install it, and to start with computer services in the country was a challenge and an expedition by itself. Since then, TCS has seen the Y2K era, it has seen the IT services era, and it is today leading India in the digital era. And if I go to the next slide, you see here the TCS campus in Chennai. And today, of course, it is one of India's largest and most successful companies, and it has also been the flag bearer of the IT services revolution in India, which has created so many jobs and an industry that India is very, very proud of. But from 1969 now, I will move on, and I will move on to 1999. By now, JRD Tata was no more. He had passed away, and Mr. Ratan Tata had taken over as chairman of the Tata Group. So remember, over the last 45 minutes, I have spoken about Jamshedji Tata, I have spoken about Dorab Tata, I have spoken about JRD Tata, leaders from different eras. But all of them demonstrated belief and resilience to be able to get to their dreams. In 1999, Mr. Ratan Tata stood up at the Automobile Manufacturers Association of Meeting of India in Mumbai. And he said, why should India not have its own car? A car which is indigenously developed and designed, a car which is meant for India, a car which actually uses ancillaries and parts which are created in India, India's first ever car. Once again, just like the British were skeptical of Jamshedji Tata when he said, I am going to create a steel plant, the industry was skeptical of Mr. Tata's statement. And this is the modern age. It's not 1903 or 1890s. They said India making a car requires a lot of technology. Remember, at that time, the Ambassador and Fiat were, of course, in India. But they were cars which had been designed in the UK and Italy. And anyway, they were aging. The Maruti Suzuki was in India, but it is a car which had been completely designed in Japan and it was only being assembled in Gurgaon. Hyundai had just entered India, but once again, it was a car which had been designed and developed in Korea, and it was being assembled in Sri Perumbudur near Chennai. What Mr. Tata was talking of was a car which was for Indian conditions, developed and designed completely within the country. He said we need the car which is the size of an ambassador because Indian families are large, like to travel large, like to carry a lot of food with us. But a car which has the fuel efficiency of a Maruti Suzuki because fuel efficiency is also very important for Indians, and a car which has the modern style of a Zen. That is the mission which he provided his engineers. He set up using the Engineering Research Center in Pune, They worked with an Italian design firm called IDEO to create the design of the Tata Indica, which was revolutionary for a car of that time. These engineers created the design, but how do you now build a car? Tata Motors at that time was a medium-sized truck maker. It was the market leader in trucks in India, but it had no base in cars. A plant to make a manufacturing factory to make cars cost about $2 billion. It was way beyond what Tata Motors could afford at that stage. So what did Mr. Tata do? Did he give up his dream? No. His engineers and he scouted the world for a few years. I don't remember exactly for what period of time, but for quite a bit of time. Eventually in Australia, they found a plant of Nissan which was no longer being used. They were able to buy that plant at 1/6 the price of what a new car plant would cost. Brick by brick, they disassembled that plant in Australia and brought it all the way to Pune, where they reassembled the plant in Pune. That is how the first Tata Indica factory was created. That challenge did not deter Mr. Tata. I have gone to Pune while writing my book Tata Load, and while writing the story of Tata Indica, I have met workers of the Tata Motors plant in Pune, Marathi speaking, SSLC and PUC educated who were employed by Tata Motors at that time. They said we had no idea how to make a car. It took us 8 days to assemble the first Tata Indica. Today, 56 seconds, every 56 seconds a car comes out of the plant. But they said we were very proud of doing it. They still have tears in their eyes. And they said we are very proud of doing it because we were assembling something which was historic. We were assembling India's first ever car. They said our friends refused to believe whether we could make a car our own car in India. But when we said the Tatas are making it, they said perhaps yes. The Tata Indica was launched in 1999 to great fanfare. It got more than 1 lakh bookings. But very soon, there were a number of quality problems. Even today, managers in Tata Motors squirm when they think about those days. There was suspension noise, the windows were not working as they should, there were many finish issues, and there were a huge host of quality problems which came up. And suddenly, once again, lots of people turned around and said, didn't we tell you that India cannot make its own car? Once again, did Mr. Tata and his team give up? No, Mr. Tata led from the front. He called for a crisis meeting at the Taj President Hotel in Mumbai. They visited consumers and distributors. They understood exactly what the issue was. They took 6 to 9 months to lick those issues and get rid of them. And then the Tata Indica was relaunched as the Tata Indica V2 in the year 2001. And in 2002 and 2003, it went on to become the fastest selling car on the face of India. Many people have asked Mr. Ratan Tata, what gave you the confidence to do this? And he has always said, what gave me the confidence is my team. I had a very good team of engineers. I had confidence that these young engineers would take up a challenge which was beyond their reach and make it happen. I think that's true of all of us. When as leaders or as managers, we build confidence in our teams and we entrust them with challenges which are sometimes outside their reach, they grasp and get those challenges. India, even today, when I post about the Tata Indica, there is such pride in the fact that we created this car in India. Today, of course, the Nexon electric vehicle has been born. We are in a new era of car making. Actually, the Nexon EV is now the fastest selling electric car in India, again from the Tata Motors stable. But this is the story of how the car business was born in 1999. And if you sit back for a moment and look at the steel business in 1890s and 1900, the airlines business in 1930, the car business in 1999, these are all different businesses of different eras, but the story is the same. The story is one of belief, of confidence, of resilience, of innovation to find the right answers, of overcoming adversity, even quality issues. And this is the same story I can narrate of Tanishq and the jewelry business, which I have been part of, how it overcame adversity in the early years. But I recognize that I'm running towards the end of my time, so I'm going to switch from 1999 to 2004. And this was a time when it was becoming clear that cancer is a scourge in our country. Cancer is impacting people like no other disease. And it is such a tragic disease because you just see people wasting away unless they are treated well. In the 1940s, the Tata Trusts, I had mentioned to you that the Tata Trusts are the owners of Tata Sons. They had already established the Tata Memorial Hospital in Parel in Mumbai, where even today 70% of the patients are treated free of cost. Of course, the Tata Memorial Hospital in Parel in Mumbai by the 1960s, it became a government hospital. It was initially set up with funding from the Tata Trust, and now, of course, it's the Department of Atomic Energy which operates the Tata Memorial Hospital. But by 2004, it was clear that a large number of cancer cases in India are actually coming from the eastern part of our country. And therefore, it became clear that a cancer hospital in the east is required. And this is when the Tata Trusts established the Tata Medical Center at Rajarhat in Kolkata. And those of you who have visited Kolkata or are from Kolkata or the eastern region yourself may have seen this. It is the largest cancer care center and research center of its kind in the eastern part of the country. And today the Tata Trusts under the leadership of Mr. Ratan Tata are in the midst of establishing at least 11 or 12 cancer hospitals in various states of India in collaboration with the state governments, and creating a national cancer grid which can link these hospitals together and provide the best in cancer care and treatment. It's not easy to create a Tata Medical Center like this. The funding required is enormous. The Tata Group had to part fund it and also had to invite contributions, had to raise funds to make this possible. And had to set up all the ancillary care facilities for patients from Assam, from the Northeast, to come to Kolkata and get treated. But today, it stands as a proud testimony of the Tata Group's continuing commitment to the community, the same commitment that I spoke about when I showed you that quotation that Jamshedji Tata had said. Let me move on now from 2004. There are many, many stories I can cover, but I'm already at 1:25 p.m. and we have a Q&A coming up after this. This is the current year, 2020, and we are in the midst of a raging pandemic, the likes of which we have never seen, our parents have never seen, our grandparents have never seen. After the 1918 Spanish flu, perhaps the first such major pandemic which has struck our country and raged in this manner. So I was very proud on the 28th of March, in the very early days of the pandemic itself, when Mr. Ratan Tata, on behalf of the Tata Trusts, and Mr. Chandrasekharan, our chairman, on behalf of Tata Sons, announced a corpus of 1,500 crores to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, it was clear that this is going to be a challenging year. Despite that, I think the Tata Group's announcement that we would do that once again reaffirms the commitment to the community and to the nation. Thereafter, these funds have been used in establishing COVID hospitals. You see one photograph here in Orissa, but a hospital in Kasargod, a hospital along with DRDO in Delhi, a couple of hospitals in Maharashtra, more than 2,000 hospital beds. They've been used to create PPE equipment. More than 2,500 tons of PPE equipment have been moved across the country for frontline workers. They've been used to provide meals to migrant workers. In the most recent past, the Tata Group, in collaboration with CSIR, has announced the Tata CRISPR COVID-19 accelerated test, which can do very quick testing. So these funds have gone into many aspects of the fight against COVID-19. But the point I want to make here is that in today's era, this is the most pressing requirement, just like science education was the most pressing requirement in that era. And once again, my belief is that the Tata Group and the Tata brand have stepped in where they have found that something is an essential need of the country. So ladies and gentlemen, as I near the end of my presentation, the point I want to make is that I've told you about all these leaders, and I can talk about many other leaders like Xerxes Desai and Sumant Mulgaonkar and Darbari Seth and their contributions as well. But if you look at all the 10 stories I've narrated, the story of steel, the story of the Taj Mahal Hotel, the story of Tata Power and hydroelectricity, the story of the Indian Institute of Science, the story of the Olympics, of the Tata Airlines, of the Bombay Plan, of TCS, of Tata Indica, Tata Cancer Hospital, and now COVID-19, you will see that it goes back to this philosophy that the founder Jamshedji Tata had, why he set us up, when he said in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. This is the purpose, ladies and gentlemen, of the Tata brand and the Tata Group. This is why we exist. All the money we make from selling our brands, from selling, of course, we have to be very profitable. We have to create businesses which are relevant to every age. That economic engine is very important to fund the work that is happening for the community. At the end of the day, because 66% of Tata Sons is owned by the charitable trust, by the Tata Charitable Trust, 66% of all the dividends and the profits eventually flow back to the community through many of the stories that I've told you. I've just narrated 10 stories to you. Those of you who want to read up more, you should go to LinkedIn, where I have narrated at least 35 odd Tata stories, and read whichever of them you want. You just do hashtag Tata Stories and you will be able to access many of those Tata stories on LinkedIn. But all these stories have 3 or 4 components which are common to them. One, what is important for the nation and the community is important for the Tatas. 2, each of them has involved some adversity or some challenge, either lack of support from British government or a very expensive car factory or non-affiliation of an Indian team by the Olympics or the pandemic in Mumbai. Each of them has involved a challenge. Those challenges were overcome to create their business. 3, whoever it was, whether it was Jamshedji Tata or Dorabji Tata or JRD Tata or Sumant Mulgaonkar or Ratan Tata, all of them had huge belief in what they wanted to do. They trusted their teams, they empowered their teams. And I wish I had more time to describe some of these stories in greater detail, but you'll find them on LinkedIn. You'll also find them in my book, Tata Log, where I've narrated some of these stories. But the point I want to make is, I'm going back to what I said in the beginning. It is not only the quality of our products and services, the reason why Indians trust us. It is also the fact that we have tried our best to do good for the community and the nation. Have we been perfect? No. There have been errors that we have made. There are businesses which have flourished and there are businesses which have failed. There are errors of strategy we have made. But at the end of the day, I think we have also learned how to correct those errors. As I've written in my book, Tata Log, we are a human organization. And where there are humans, there will be errors. But we are an organization which believes very strongly in the philosophy for which we were set up. And I think that belief is what sustains us. That belief gives us the purpose to say we have completed 152 years. We will rise stronger and stronger over the next 152 years as well. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, if I go to the next slide, Mahatma Gandhi, he visited Jamshedpur. And he has said, God grant that in serving the Tatas, you will also serve India and will always realize that you're here for a much higher mission than merely working for an industrial enterprise. That is very important to people like Venkatadri, myself, Sri Lakshmi, all my colleagues in the Tata Group. The reason that I have spent 33 years of my career with the Tata Group, right out of college when I joined them, and today at the age of 58, I continue to work for them. This is one of the fundamental reasons that I know that when I work to create Tanishq or when I work to create Fast Track or Tata Tea, of course, I'm working to create a very powerful brand, and that's very fulfilling for me as a marketer. But I also know that those brands are indirectly contributing profits to the Tata Charitable Trust and thereon to the community. That gives a sense of purpose and belief, which I think is very important for us in the Tata Group. So may I end with this quote from Mahatma Gandhi and go to my last slide. For those of you who want to read further, please feel free to read my book, Tata Log, or please feel free to read hashtag Tata Stories on LinkedIn. I also think it's, I began, some of these stories are inspiring because I think we need inspiration in our lives. And history gives us some of the best inspiration, which is the reason that I have a passion for writing and I have been writing these stories. With those few words, I'm exactly at 1:30 now. So Venkatadri, with your kind permission, I want to bring my presentation to a conclusion. and hand over to you to coordinate the question and answer session. Just give me a minute to have a glass of water, and then I am ready to start speaking. And Shri, you can take the presentation off.
Thank you, Harish, for that insightful and intriguing stories. Everybody, you can send in your questions now. We'll take the questions. We already have some questions. Venkat will now take them up. Over to you, Venkat.
Before I get into the questions, I think I need to share my emotions and feelings. And I think one of the critical things as coaches we are all taught is to look at things from an emotional perspective. These stories, I'm sure I have heard multiple times from different people, also from couple of times from Harish. But every time I hear these stories, and it actually brings about goosebumps and makes us feel moist-eyed. And the beauty of it is that Harish actually brings in that element of the personal touch to it, and making it in a very uh, easily understandable manner, and relates the ethos behind it. I think so. Let me say that first about myself before I bring about what the others have said. Harish, I mean, I'll tell you, the kind of comments that people have made about it is brilliant. They've people are all talking about great stories. You have actually put it across very, very in a very brilliant manner. There are comments about the Tata Group, impressive story and track record of the Tata Group. People saying that it's a remarkable narrative, and of course Tatas are a legend by themselves, and the insights into the people behind it are fascinating. So really, I think there is general. Everybody has said things that are really they're happy about having participated in it and listening to the stories. A couple of questions that have come in is that, one, I'll go back to what Ravi is asked, saying that he's saying that he's heard that the 8-hour working for labor was adopted by Tatas much before the ILO mandated as the labor law. He would like to hear more about it. Oh, you're on mute. Harish, you're on mute.
Just give me 1 minute, please. I'll just come back with something. Please give me a moment.
Yeah.
Venkat, you can see this.
Yeah, so Venkat, let me say this. There is a beautiful story which I did not have time to narrate today, which is the story of Empress Mills. Empress Mills was born in the 1870s in Nagpur. It was one of the first business enterprises of Jamshedji Tata. And in the 1880s, Jamshedji Tata actually set up a creche for the children of the women who were working in the Empress Mills, much before creches for children of women became something that industry should do. He also established at that time at Empress Mills a medical dispensary for labor, dispensing medicines free of cost for labor at that time. He tried his best to live. I have studied the history of Jamshedji Tata through reading several biographies of his life and reading many accounts of what he did. He tried his best to bring into the companies that he established the same spirit of keeping the community center stage. On the 8-hour working day, you're quite right. This is absolutely. Who has asked this question, Venkat? Can you tell me once
Ravi.
again?
Yes,
Ravi.
Ravi.
So I'm going to read out some of the welfare measures that the Tatas have been the first to introduce in the country. And if you want to read more about it, then R.M. Lala's book, The Creation of Wealth, has details. In 1912, Tata Steel introduced the 8-hour working day. It became a legal measure in India in 1948 under the Factories Act. So Tata Steel introduced it in 1912, and 1948 was when it became law in India. Free medical aid was introduced by Tatas in 1915, 1915. It became a law in India in 1948 under the Employees State Insurance Act. Workers' Provident Fund, which all of us are aware of, was introduced by Tata Steel in 1920. It became a law in India in 1952 under the Employees Provident Fund Act. Gratuity for retiring employees was established by the Tata Group in 1937 in Tata Steel. It became a law in India in 1972 under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So, and there is a full list, of maternity benefit was introduced by the Tata Group in 1928. It became a law in India in 1946 under the Bihar Maternity Benefit Act. So I can read out a large list of these things. But to me, rather than the specific achievements, what made them happen? What is the spirit which has made the Tata Group do this? And that spirit is captured in the philosophy of the founder, which I put up before. Let's keep the community center stage in whatever we do. Some of these measures may have been in place in other countries in the world, and the Tatas may have learned from other countries in the world and brought them to India. But at the end of the day, I always tell myself, the why is important. The why of what we do. And the why of why these things have happened is because of that commitment to the community is what I would like to think. So I hope, Venkat, that answers Ravi's question.
Yeah, that's a. I will link up to another question which is kind of connected with that. How is this unique culture of community and purpose, so ably set by the founders, sustained over such a long time?
So first and foremost, Venkat, I would like to say that it is important. I mean, the founder Jamshedji Tata set this out as a philosophy, and the leaders of the Tata Group. This includes chairman of the Tata Group like Dorab Tata or JRD Tata or Ratan Tata or Mr. Chandrasekhar. But it also includes people like Rusi Modi, Darbari Seth, Sumant Mulgaonkar, Xerxes Desai, R.K. Krishna Kumar. I can name a number of people. They are the flag bearers of this culture, and they have exemplified commitment to the community at every level. One of the reasons that happens is that the Tata culture gets imbibed in them, and then they start also sharing that culture with others. Because what is culture after all but the behaviors which come together in our leadership patterns and our families. The second reason, Venkat, as you are aware, is every year we celebrate Founders' Day. We pay tribute to Jamshedji Tata on the 3rd of March and remind ourselves that this is why we were born. We don't permit ourselves to forget our founder. We don't permit ourselves to forget his philosophy, so that the founder's philosophy can live on. On the 3rd of March, every year in Tata Steel in Jamshedpur, the chairman himself goes to celebrate Founders' Day, and it happens across all our offices in many parts of the country. So the founder's philosophy also is very, very important. The third is that because of this culture, working with the community has got ingrained in many of our companies, and certainly in many of the older companies, and it's also coming in now into many of our newer companies. And therefore, many of our companies now have got strong community service departments. In fact, the Tata Group has a very strong volunteering program called Engage, which Venkat, you are aware of as much as I am, which registered 1.2 million hours last year of volunteering. which also helps individuals to contribute and know what it is like to contribute to the community. Once again, is there much more we can do? Of course, there is much more we can do. And culture is something that requires constant maintenance. It is not that culture, once it is there forever. Uh, you know, and therefore, even, people like you and me, Venkat, in our respective teams in the Tata Group and our respective organizations, also work towards doing our best to renew that culture when required. So I think it's a combination of all these. And I would say that the single lodestar there is saying that this is why we were born, this is our purpose, this is why we exist. So let us remain true to that purpose. And that is exemplified in everything that the group wants to do. There are occasional aberrations. Again, here I don't want any of you to think that we are perfect in the Tata Group. We do make errors. There may be occasions when this culture comes under some threat, but the group takes actions immediately thereafter to bring back what we think is the culture of the group. So those are a few thoughts, Venkat. But to tell you the truth, I am not an expert on culture. I think this requires more. Someone who has studied this subject in greater detail. I have not really done research into how this continuity of culture has been maintained so beautifully, which indeed it has. But these are some of my spontaneous thoughts in response to that question.
That's a great answer, Harish. There is a question from Harish Devarajan. He's asking, will you kindly explain how the foundation of ethics and courageous integrity in all walks of business life is nurtured and practiced in the Tata Group?
So this is very important to us in the Tata Group, and thank you, Harish, for asking this question. Fundamental to fundamental to the Tata Group is doing business in the right way, because that is right for the nation at the end of the day. In fact, JRD Tata once got a letter from a school teacher in Kolkata asking him to illustrate some of the principles of his life. And one of the things that he said in that response, and you can go on LinkedIn and read the actual letter, is that no business is worthwhile unless it is done for the nation and unless it is done in the right way. Now, what is the process that the Tata Group follows to make this happen? Every Tata Group company which uses the Tata brand signs a brand equity and business promotion agreement with Tata Sons for the use of the brand. And when they do this, one of the things that they have to agree to is to sign the Tata Code of Conduct. All of us as employees of the Tata Group have signed the Tata Code of Conduct. And the other thing that is signed is the Tata Business Excellence Framework, which is a different story. So the Tata Code of Conduct becomes ingrained in many of our lives. There is constant training, of course, at the group level. One also recognizes that, whatever process is there, sometimes there may be loopholes in the process. And therefore, the group, I think, is, I would say, sometimes the group may give me additional time to perform. But if I don't adhere to the Tata Code of Conduct, the group has always been very, very strict in the way it looks at deviations from the Tata Code of Conduct. So that is one manner in which I think this culture of integrity and doing right is set. The other manner, Venkat, is really, the stories of things which have been done right, as well as the stories of things which did not go right, are during these code of conduct sessions, I think, talked about and transferred to younger generations so that people know what doing right means and what deviation means from the Tata Code of Conduct. Also, when things go wrong, and they have gone wrong, if you read my book Tata Log, you'll come across the story of Tata Finance, where there was actually an ethical lapse. And I've explained that in great detail. The Tata Group has not tended to brush those under the carpet. They have tended to address those upfront. Mr. Gopalakrishnan, who was executive director of Tata Sons for a long time, both Venkat and I know him well. He once told me, and I have quoted him in Tata Log, it is not that things don't go wrong. When organizations composed of humans work, sometimes things will go wrong. There will be lapses. But the best organizations don't brush those lapses under the carpet. They deal with them upfront and resolve them. So while I may not have time here to narrate the story of Tata Finance, it is a story worth reading to see what kind of a lapse can happen even within the Tata Group, and also to see what the Tata Group did in its best efforts to correct that lapse, which is also an admirable story. But I'll leave it, Venkat, to it's there for reading. I have put out that story in the public domain as well.
Harish, there is a question from Anuradha. She is asking about employee empowerment. What she says that you spoke about employee empowerment and it's well talked about in the Tata Group. How did the group do it then, and how is it doing it now?
Oh, I can talk from my experience, Venkat. I think the group permits you to take a lot of initiative. Uh, I would say in the 33 years of my career, the group has never stopped me from taking initiative. I have been a young assistant sales manager managing the Andhra Pradesh state for Tata Tea. I was then a head of brands for Tata Tea. I was head of retailing for Tanishq. I was chief operating officer of Tanishq and Titan. I was MD of Tata Global Beverages. Now I am brand custodian of the Tata brand. At every level, the group encourages initiative. As long as you stay within the boundaries of what your focus areas are, and as long as you do it right. Uh, so I think that itself signifies empowerment. And my belief is that the processes within each individual company enable empowerment, which is very, very important to remain agile. We are aware that in today's business context, remaining agile is very critical. And to remain agile, you need empowerment at various levels across the organization. So that's my responsibility to the question.
A related question comes from Vinita. She's asking, what is the employee value proposition for Tata? Especially, you have a good blend of employees from various socio-economic status.
Yeah, so you know, I believe that the Tata Group is a very caring employer. It is an organization where employees, including myself, feel cared for, which takes care of us during good times and bad times, including the current pandemic, which is a very challenging period. It is an organization which treats us as people first and not as cogs in the wheel. It is an organization, when the Jamshedji Tata said keep the community center stage, employees are also part of that community. And it is an organization which keeps employees center stage. So one element of the employee value proposition, which is very important for all employees, right from uh, you know uh, team members in our factory to team members in the stores to team members at the corporate office, is the fact that we belong to an organization which cares for us. The other element of the value proposition, which is important at particularly at manager levels, is the fact that we work for a large conglomerate. There is the opportunity of working across businesses, gaining rich and diverse experience across businesses of the, uh, just to illustrate using my own career as an example, and you'll find many, many such examples in the group. Um, I have had the opportunity to work with the tea and coffee business, with the jewelry business, with the watches business, and now also, with the conglomerate itself handling the Tata brand. But my colleague Sri Lakshmi, who's on this call, equally much has worked with the Indian Hotel. I mean, she spent much less time in the group than I have, being much younger to me. But she spent time with as a TAS probationer working in several businesses, then with Taj managing the salons business, then with Dr. Mukund Rajan, who was a brand custodian and head of sustainability, looking at the whole range of those functions, and now as part of the corporate brand and corporate brand marketing team, um, handling several initiatives. Similarly, if you ask Venkatadri, he has been able to develop a wealth of experience ranging from rallies to Tata Chemicals, innovation, science, and now, of course, I know he has just stepped into a new role a month or so ago. So I think that diversity of experience is the second leg of the employee value proposition when it comes to the Tata Group. The third is what I've already spoken about. Being part of the Tata Group is an opportunity to contribute to the community and contribute to the nation. You do it because the profits that your efforts bring to the companies go to the Tata Charitable Trust and the nation. But you also do it because you can directly contribute to the community through volunteering and through other aspects that you are interested. And finally, of course, I think the Tata Group gives you enough leeway to pursue your own passions in life, your own interests in life, whether it is executive coaching for Venkatadri, whether it is writing for me, where our passions are, I think the group encourages us after, of course, assessing that we are serious about it and we want to do a good job of it. Since I am talking about writing, let me say this. The Tata Group has probably contributed more authors to this nation than any other corporate group, and more books on business history, which I think every group should have, to record both the rights and wrongs of business history. Why? I've asked myself this question. Why has there been an R.M. Lala and a Mr. Gopalakrishnan? Why do I now write about the Tata Group? The simple reason is that the group empowers us to pursue our passions and gives us the freedom to pursue our passions. So I think the employee value proposition is a combination of all these. But most importantly, I would say a caring employer who truly and genuinely cares for employees is somewhere at the core of the value proposition which the group offers. That's my perspective. I would encourage you to speak to other people in the Tata Group and understand what their perspective is.
Great. There's a question from Rohit who says that healthcare and education are two basic needs for any country. While Tatas have contributed immensely to healthcare, he wants to know why have Tata stayed away from primary education.
I'm not able to answer that question honestly because the choices that a group makes, which industries it wants to play in, are strategic choices, and it is not possible for a group to play in all aspects of an economy. So I would say that therefore uh, this is a matter of strategy and strategic choice. Having said that, over the years, I think the Tata Group has established some of India's finest educational institutes of higher learning, not of primary education. Whether it's the Indian Institute of Science or the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research or the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, or indeed now the National Institute of Advanced Studies in Bangalore. Uh, we also have Tata ClassEdge, which is a digital learning venture still in its early stages. But eventually, Venkatadri, it's a matter of strategic choice on which areas the group wants to be in. Beyond that, I will not be able to answer this question.
Vinita has a question on brands. She's saying, what is the brand strategy for Tata? Is it same for all industries or different for each one? And how do you view it between traditional businesses and modern industry presence like TCS?
It's an interesting question. The core of the Tata brand, like I've told you, is the community being center stage. And the other pillar of the Tata brand is building pioneering businesses which are relevant to the nation and which also provide products and services of excellent quality. These are the two pillars. That is of the Tata corporate brand. But if you look at a brand within a given industry, say Tata Salt or TCS or Tata Motors, you will find that all of them, the trust of the Tata brand and the community centricity of the Tata brand is there virtually in every brand of them. But in addition, every brand also needs to have other USPs which are defined by the consumer need. So Tata Salt Venkat, a company where you have spent many years, it's all about adding back to the health of the nation through iodized salt. And the core of the brand there, Desh Ka Namak, as you say, is all about adding nutrition back to the nation. And even the business that you're heading now is all about, the brand strategy will be about contributing nutrition to the nation. Whereas if you take a very different brand, take a very technology brand like like TCS, which says we provide certainty to our customers and we provide digital solutions to meet our customers' needs. That proposition is different from the Tata Sons proposition. If I take a brand like Tanishq, which I've been part of for a long time, Tanishq is all about assured purity and contemporary design for modern Indian women. But Tanishq is also about trust and contributing back to the community through jewelry karigars and through making their lives better. So I would say community is a common thread which runs through all our brands, but each brand thereafter has to choose the other pillars of its proposition based on what their consumer needs are. That is how brands grow. Um, so someday, as people examine, I've looked at the advertising of Tata brands over a long period of time, uh, starting from the 19th. In fact, the Tata Archives did a very good exhibition. One common thread, Venkat, which runs through all the advertising of Tata brands is nation building and community. Not only, Tata Steel saying we also make steel, which was 30, 40 years back. It is true equally much of Desh Ka Namak. It is true equally much of Jago Re of the Tata Tea campaign. It is true equally much of Dua Ka Sona, which is Tanish's current campaign. So I think nation building and community is integral part of the DNA of each of our brands. But every brand also needs additional threads based on the needs of their respective consumers.
Great, Harish. We still have lots of questions, but I will ask one from my side before
Sure.
we kind of wrap up. It's almost
Yeah,
1:58.
yeah.
You've given us a lot of interesting stories of resilience of from the Tata Group. Today, because of COVID, we are also facing a big challenge as human beings. There
Yes.
is, people are questioning their own, self, purpose. There are challenges to their employment, challenges to their lives. Obviously, people, many of them have lost their jobs. So it's a very, very tumultuous time as of now. So how would you, take out some learning from, obviously it calls for resilience. How would you take out some of the learnings from there and say, give it to the people for these trying times?
So you're right, Venkat. This is one of the toughest periods that as human beings and individuals we are facing. In the midst of that tough period, I think it's important for all of us, as I'm sure all of us recognize, to be very positive, to ensure that hope is alive, to ensure that we convey positivity to others. And there must be many methods of doing this. All of you as coaches would be more expert in it than me. But there are a couple of methods that I tend to use, which I will speak about from personal reflection. First, I think in tough times, hearing and imbibing inspiring stories of challenges faced by people and how they overcame those challenges works really well on the human psyche, because it says if that man or that woman was able to overcome a challenge and do so well, perhaps I can do as well also. So inspiring stories of people who have faced challenges, of organizations which have faced challenges and been resilient in the face of those challenges is very important. A good inspiring story, and Mr. Gopalakrishnan, who has been your boss and my boss, has mentioned this to me. A good inspiring story, if you go back to the principles of these inspiring stories, they have a hero. The hero goes through many ups and downs. He eventually passes through a very, very challenging period, like what in India we call an Agni Pariksha. He comes out of that Agni Pariksha partly burnt, but also with lessons learned, and then becomes successful. The story of how Tata Steel was founded, or Indian Institute of Science was founded, or Tata Indica was founded, all have this element of the Agni Pariksha within them, and of challenges and resilience. So one way that I have tried my best, Venkat, as the brand custodian of the Tata brand, is to narrate these inspiring stories. That's why once a week I write and post an inspiring story on LinkedIn. And finally, I have worked only for this group throughout my life for 33 years. So the stories I know best are from the history of our group. So, but I'm sure there are many such inspiring stories from every corporate in India. It is not that only Tata Group has these inspiring stories. I know these inspiring stories, so I narrate them. So one very good way of making sure that positivity and positivity as well as empathy is displayed is by narrating inspiring stories both from history and from modern times, which can make people feel very, very positive during these challenging times. The second thing, Venkat, I think is very important to us, which also makes us feel positive during these times, is, and this is my personal belief, is just being kind. The need to be kind is very important. Uh, this is a time when people require empathy and require kindness. And my belief is if you have to be kind to others, the first thing is to be kind to yourself. Recognize that we are living through a pandemic. We are not living in usual times. Uh, Eat well, sleep well, have your daily walk or exercise which brings a spring in your step. Make sure that you read something positive. Make sure that you take some time off to recharge yourself. Uh, those aspects of being kind to yourself are important as much as being kind to others. Have human conversations with others and not just business or transactional conversations with others who are members of your team or your peers or your colleagues. Make sure that sometimes you surprise them with positivity, which is easy to do because being kind, kindness is actually only a phone call away. So, so storytelling is one mode of inspiring people during this challenging time. The other thing is being kind because people know that getting a new job in these days is difficult, but they still want someone who can listen to them and who can provide them some inputs and some advice. Uh, I'm sure I'm not able to provide solutions to every person who talks to me, but the very fact that I am providing him or her human time to listen to that challenge and then applying my mind to say, listen, here are one or two things you can do, itself, I think, is a way of making sure that people are very positive, very engaged during these trying times. So these are two thoughts in my mind, Venkat, but I'm sure all of you as expert coaches would have many other thoughts on how to keep people very positive during these trying times.
Thanks a lot, Harish. And we are well over the hour, but I guess it was such an engaging session that, you know, I also couldn't stop people, from their questions. And there are a few more, but obviously we will have to take it to a closure. At the end, I'd really like to thank Harish for, you are yourself. I don't think I can compare and contrast. I mean, you're a brilliant communicator. You were able to bring life into those stories, and many of the comments that the participants have expressed is also about the way you've been able to share the stories. Thank you for coming across to Kocharia and sharing with us the stories from the Tata Group. Thank you very much. And with this, I'll hand it.
Let me also say, Venkat, at the same time, it has been a privilege and a pleasure to speak to all of you. On behalf of the Tata Group, thank you for inviting me and thank you for giving me such a patient hearing. I really appreciate uh, all the interesting questions which have come up from all of you. And like with any session, I think if each of us in this session are able to take one or two good takeaways behind with us, I would feel most gratified. So once again, thank you, and to Kocharia and to you, Venkat, for inviting me. My grateful thanks.
Thanks, Harish. With this, I will hand it back to Aishwarya.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, Harish. I think this was a great session. Audience response, questions, everything, and I believe it was also something that we needed at this time. How Harish summarized the entire, starting from history and to current times during this pandemic that we are in. So thank you. This was grateful. This was insightful and a very interesting session. Thank you, Harish, for taking out the time and coming on board for this with us. And thank you, Venkat, for inviting Harish. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us on this session. We have 2 more sessions for the evening. Please join us there. I have already linked in the groups that we have on LinkedIn, and I've linked in a survey form that also I would love to hear your response on. With this, I'll close the session for today for this. Thank you, everybody, once again for
Thank
being.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye to all. Thank you.
Thank you.